Shalom, everyone. Let's try with the microphone. Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Chabad of Marina Del Rey and Venice. And tonight we have the honor of being present here. I really don't even know how else to say it. More than that, I would say I feel blessed to be here tonight, present together with someone of such stature. And I've already told Mr. Alexander at the conclusion of the evening. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, all right. And I have already informed Mr. Alexander that at the conclusion of tonight, I'm going to be asking for a blessing for everybody, because as far as I'm concerned, a person that has gone through the challenges of life and for so many decades has the power to bless. So, and I will be, as we say in Hebrew, "Ani hakatan," I will be the most humble one, the first one to stand in line and be present to get your blessings. Tonight is special for so many reasons. Of course, we have a special guest for the occasion. It happens to be the evening between the 19th day of the Hebrew month of Kislev and the 20th day. These 2 days on the Jewish calendar are special because it is a chag. For us, it's a holiday. It's Chag HaGeulah, the holiday of liberation. It was about 300 years ago that one of the most famous Hasidic masters and Kabbalists, the Holy Baal Shem Tov, decided that the mystical teachings of Torah need to be shared with the masses, not just to be kept for the sages that study mysticism to their own. For thousands of years, that's the way it used to be. Only few people had access to the deeper teachings of the Torah. The Holy Baal Shem Tov gave the reign of being a Hasidic master to his students, the Mazrich, of the Maggid of Mezrich. And then after him, it was the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe that took on the leadership in Europe to teach Hasidic philosophy and mysticism to everyone. At a certain point, it was a new floodgate of spirituality that was being taught, something that nobody had seen before. And so, in the heavens above, there was actually a complaint lodged to the heavenly court that 1 second, God Almighty, these deep secrets of the Torah have not been revealed for centuries. And why is it that now suddenly is being taught so rapidly and to the masses that are not necessarily of the highest stature of spirituality? And so, down here in this world as well, there was actually the government of Russia at that point, somebody framed the Hasidic master saying that he is planning to rebel against the Russian government. What else is it, right? And they arrested him on those charges and put him into prison for 53 days until, after many fascinating stories and miracles that they saw around the prison, in the prison, and they saw what a spiritual man they're dealing with, they said these cannot be true, and he was free. From death penalty, he was free to go. And at that point, his mentors, the previous Hasidic masters, came to him and he asked them, why did all of this happen? Why am I in a physical prison? So they said, because in the heavens above, there was a complaint against the way you were spreading Hasidic teachings, too fast, too deep, and the world was not ready for it. So that translated down here in the physical world to a physical imprisonment. So I said, okay, if that's the case, should I cut back? Should I withhold? Should I not teach anymore? They said to the contrary. Now that you have opened the floodgates, you got to open it all the way and teach, because now the new era of knowledge has started and people want to learn. They need to know what the world is all about and how godliness imbues everything in the world, and that could only be learned from teaching and learning the Hasidic insights of mysticism. And so tonight marks the day that the Alter Rebbe was freed. Therefore, on the Jewish calendar, it is like a holiday. Not quite like Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but nonetheless, it is a holiday that we celebrate. We have festive occasions, we have meals, and besides that, we have the holiday of Hanukkah coming up. And we're going to be celebrating Hanukkah next week. We're going to be starting Sunday night, which is all about, as well, being victorious of light against darkness. And unfortunately, these days, more than ever, we have darkness everywhere around the world. And we need more light. We need more goodness, more kindness in the world. And so it is our hope that with tonight's lecture, we will be bringing down an immense amount of light, and God willing, will dispel much darkness, and will be able to bring the world to a higher, elevated state of consciousness, of knowing we're all one. We're here for a purpose. God had a purpose for creating this world so we could all live together. And then we have ultimately fulfilled the purpose of our creation. In addition, and I will make the announcements again, next week we're going to have the Hanukkah celebrations. The first night of Hanukkah, we will have the menorah lighting right here in our Chabad house. The menorah is right outside. We're going to have children's program. The fire truck will come from the fire department. We'll be throwing down candies. It will be lots of fun. So you have flyers that gives you the time. And then on Tuesday night, the third night of Hanukkah, we're going to have an outdoor menorah lighting and a singer and music, live music at the Marina Del Rey Boardwalk. You know where that new Trader Joe's has opened up? Okay, so right next to it, there's those other buildings, Bank of America, and a few restaurants, which I don't know the name because I don't go there, they're not kosher, so, but there's a few restaurants there, so right smack in between those buildings, outside will be the menorah, we'll have the festivities right there, and then culminating with the menorah lighting. So please put it on your calendar and join us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I shouldn't be taking any more of your time. We're here for Mr. Alexander. Thank you, Mr. Alexander, for coming.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thank everybody for coming. It's an honor for me to be here today. I'm a Holocaust survivor from Poland, and I survived 12 camps. I come from a small town in Poland. My father was in business, and we had a very good life until 1939, when the Germans came into Poland. They divided Poland in two halves. One half was annexed to the Third Reich, to Germany. The second half was Poland under German occupation. We lived at the part that was annexed to the Third Reich. And most of you, I'm sure, know that Europe, every town has a town square. And that's where most of the business are. We lived in the town square. The second house in one corner of the square, and the third house was an uncle of mine. After a few weeks, they came to town and went after my uncle around the square and told the people they have 10 minutes to get their possessions and get out in the middle of the square, and they took them away. Some reason, I'll never know why, they left those three houses where we were the second house. And then rumors started that they're going to come back 3 days later and take the rest of us. So my dad had three sisters living about 25 kilometers before Warsaw, which was the other half of Poland. So Dad said, "We're not going to wait for them and come us and give us 10 minutes." So he got out and then rented a wagon. We had, in Europe, we had deep wagon, about 8 feet deep, a horse-drawn wagon. And he packed up most of the stuff from the store, and he put a few pieces of bedding on top, and a couple pieces of furniture, because from our part to the other part, you had to go through a border, so that we're moving. And my parents and one sister and one brother, they left. I remained with two older sisters, and we were loading up a second wagon. In the meantime, you had the Polish people coming from around town to come to town to buy anything they can get. I sold a man a bicycle and a boat of shirt material. On the way home, he had to pass the police station. He got stopped and wanted to know where did he get that material. They thought maybe people started to loot again. So he said, "I bought it, and show me a receipt." He said, "I don't have a receipt." "Then go bring the person who sold it to you." So he came back to me and said, "You have to come with me to the police station. If not, they're going to come here." So I went with him, and he asked me, "Did you sell him that?" I said, "Yes." "Why didn't you give him a receipt?" I said, "We in Poland, we didn't give receipts." So he took that boat of material, smacked the guy, "Go," and let me go. And I went back. My sisters were waiting for me, and we took off. And we went to a little town named Blunie, about 25 kilometers before Warsaw. We come there, life was going on almost normal there. People were still in business, but everybody had to go to work. So being there for about a couple of weeks, I went to my first camp in 1939. I went to a camp, you work during the week, and the weekend you can go home. The work we were doing, we were building a canal. You stayed in water up to the knee without boots, and that was in October, November. That's in Europe, that's winter time. So I worked for about 6 weeks, and I had blood poisoning on my shoulders, on my arms, on my legs. So I went home one weekend and I said, "I'm not going back." So Monday morning, the police came to look for me. So my dad said, "He's not here, he's supposed to be in the camp." So I stayed away from home for a while. But then that was the time when they started to build in Warsaw the wall where the Warsaw Ghetto was going to be. So after they were finishing building the wall, they came out with an order. All the Jews who live within 50, 60 kilometers, the surrounding area of Warsaw, had to move into the ghetto. So I moved into the ghetto, and the life in the ghetto was miserable. You can't even imagine how it was, because the area they picked out, the size for the ghetto, was very small, and they put over 400,000 people in. So people were dying every day, went out, dead people everywhere, on the streets, on the sidewalks. It was terrible. So I lived in the ghetto for about 5 weeks, and my parents found out that back home, since we left, nothing has changed. Everything remained the same. So my parents decided for an older sister, my younger brother, and I, we should go home. So home, you have to get out of the ghetto, so you have to pay off the guards at the gate to get out. And we got out and decided my sister and brother would take one street and I'll take another street. And we walk through town, we meet on the outskirts of town. I walked for about 2 blocks, And I had a Polish teenager comes over and said, give me some money or I'm going to report you. So I figured I gave him some money, I got rid of him, and I kept walking. But he got in a streetcar, rode the streetcar for a few blocks, and he comes over again and give me some more money. So this time I gave him some more money, but I changed the street and I lost it. And I walked to the outskirts of town, I met my sister and brother, and we went home. So I'll say we came back home, nothing has changed since we left. But it lasted 3 days. I was free for 3 days. They came out in order that all the men from 16 to 60 report to the schoolhouse. So I reported to the schoolhouse and off I went to the camp. To the first camp I went to, there we were building a dam. Building a dam, we cut down hills, and we had little electric cars. You fill them up and you take them another place and they dump them. So the work we do was very hard work because we had to use picks to loosen up the ground before you could load up this car. And the food you were getting was a piece of bread like this in the morning and a cup of coffee. You went to work. You came back from work, you got a soup, which was the soup was from peels of potatoes or spinach. Doing that kind of work, you couldn't survive. The only way you could survive because we work with civilians. If you manage to get just a little extra food, that's the only way you could survive. so people were dying, and the camp was getting very small. And actually, I was in a camp. That was a camp where there's a city named Poznan, and there was a lot of camps. There was camps in the city and around the city, a lot of sub-camps. So people were dying, and the same thing happened at other camps. So they closed up the camp and combined 2-3 camps into one. After a while, another same thing happened at this camp. So from there I was moved to another camp where we were working laying cobblestones on the street. That lasted a while. Then I moved to another camp where we're building sewers, putting the big cement layer pipes in. And this lasted a while. And then I was a roofer, doing the roofs. After that, I went to another camp in the city, and we were building an airport. I was laying railroad tracks. And so for some other little camps. After being in 7 camps, a train arrived, and it wasn't a passenger train, a cattle car train, where they put 40, 50 people to one boxcar. And the destination we were going, it takes 5, 6 hours at the most. Well, we were riding around for 3 days. No food, no water, no facilities, nothing. And finally we arrived in Auschwitz. Came to Auschwitz, the train stopped at a little town named Auschwitz. The train stopped there because later on they built the trains to go straight into the camps. But when I came, they didn't have that yet. So the train stopped downtown, and they opened the doors of the train, from the boxcars. 30-40% of the people were dead on the train already. Whoever could walk, you walked out. You were lined up in rows of 5, and we met Dr. Joseph Mengele. And you heard about Dr. Mengele. We called him the doctor of death. He selected people for human experiment or for the gas chamber. So we met Dr. Mengele. He said there's 6 kilometers to walk to the camp. He's going to select people to go to the left. The people on the left are going to be taken on trucks. So he went through and he picked out sick people, old people, young kids, and I was a little guy. He picked me out to go to the left too. If I would come from home, I wouldn't know any different. But I was already in 7 camps. In most of the camps I went, anytime I would go to work, I always tried to get in with the big, strongest men. And here I look around, I see old people, sick people, that's not the kind of people I like to be with. My luck was, it was after midnight. It would have been daytime, I don't think I could have done it. When Dr. Mengele moved further down, I ran back to the other side. If I didn't run back to the other side, I wouldn't be here talking to you tonight. Because the people on the left were taken on trucks, went straight to the gas chamber. So I went back to the other side, and we walked to the camp. Walked to the camp, I got a shower, and came out of the shower, and I got a tattoo. You see. From that moment on, you had no name. This was your name. So I got a tattoo, and then there's another Auschwitz too, which is called Birkenau. I walked over to Birkenau, and I was in Birkenau for about 5 or 6 weeks, and I saw Dr. Mengele 2 more times in Birkenau. But it was daytime and I was far away from where he was. I got through. And that was the time, 1943, April of 43, when there was a Warsaw Ghetto uprising. So after the Warsaw Ghetto uprising, they said they need a big transport, but they didn't want to take any people from Poland. They wanted people from Hungary, Greece, Italy. But in the end, they were short about 300 people for the quotas they wanted. So I said, now we take some people from Poland. So I report, and I was going back to the Warsaw Ghetto for the second time. So we came back to Warsaw, to the ghetto. There was one house left, with all just remaining walls from the house were all burned out. And our job was to take down those walls brick by brick, clean them up and put them up in stacks 8 to 10 feet high. And there was no cabinet, so we had to give us some prefab, we had to put together our own barracks, and there was no facility for showers or anything until we built the camp. So in the meantime, a typhus broke out. So people report to the hospital. I never knew anybody who came out from the hospital. I got the typhus. Typhus is you get high temperature, high fever. I got a high fever, but I didn't report to the hospital because we had what we called a kappa, like a foreman. He was a German man, middleweight German man, but he was also a prisoner. So he didn't care if we worked or didn't work. So when I got that high fever, high temperature, I was sitting, laying behind those bricks, stacks of bricks like this, for about 3 days until I got over the temperature, and I went back to work. So after I went back to work, so worked for a while, and you had the Polish underground one night attacked our camp, trying to free us. So they were fighting all night, but unsuccessful. So the next morning, they closed the camp, took us out, and to get out of town, we had to jog. They said they were afraid the underground was going to attack us in the city. So to jog to get out of town, and they put us up on a big field where the farmers graze their cows, and the ground is very moist ground. So we got on that field, and whatever means you had, a knife, a spoon, anything, you could dig up some mud. and you took the bottom of your shirt and squeezed them up to get a little water. So got a little water and we start walking. So we come to the next town. There was a river. So they let us go to the river to get some water. Two of our people went a little too far into the river. They thought maybe they will escape and get out on the other side, so they got shot, got killed right in the river. And we had some water and we start walking. Walked until we come to the next town. So it was the same river. So they said only 100 people at a time go to the river to get some water. So I went to get some water and we start walking. And that day was very heavy rain was coming down. Walking, you couldn't even walk. You were soaking wet. You couldn't even walk. Until we arrived at the railroad station, stayed overnight, and the next morning the same train arrived. And that time we were 3.5 days on the train with no food, no water, nothing. And we went to Germany. Went to Germany to a camp named Dachau. Dachau was the first camp Hitler built in 1933 for political prisoners. Then he turned it into a concentration camp with a gas chamber. So I came to Dachau, and for about 2 weeks I didn't do anything because they were establishing 12 camps within 50, 60 kilometers around Dachau. So after about 2 weeks, I was sent to camp number 1. They were all by numbers, from 1 to 12. Camp number 1, we were working for a farmer who was digging potatoes. That lasted about 3 weeks. Then I was sent to a city named Landsberg on Lech, about 50 kilometers from Dachau. It was camp number 7. Camp number 7 was a small camp with only about 150 people. And that was the only camp I was where women were in the same camp, but they were blocked off by a wire fence, and we went to work together. So, with camp number 7, we were a small group. We were already over 4 years in the camps already. So we had the privilege of getting the better jobs. So a friend of mine got the jobs working in the kitchen, and some 3 of them were police in the camp, and I had a group we were 5 girls and 5 boys. We worked in the kitchen for the German guards, right outside the gate. In the kitchen, the German guards, they had 2 men in charge of the kitchen, but they were very good. They were nice, very good men. Because every day after work, I went back to the camp. I took some food back for my friends, and then we always had some soup left over. So we had some big milk cans. I took a milk can and put it in, and the next morning, people were going to work. I stopped them. They had to pass by our kitchen. I stopped them and gave them some food. A couple of times, the officer in charge of the guards complained to my people that I'm holding up the people going to work. So they told me, don't worry about it, let them talk, do what you're doing. So that lasted about 6 weeks or so, until April 28, 1945, all the 12 camps had to go back to Dachau. So I came back to Dachau, stayed overnight in a big field, and the next morning, we were going what they called a death march. They're supposed to take us in to the mountains in Germany. There's a ski resort named Garbers, and they're supposed to kill us in the mountain. So we walked about 2 days, and we knew we were not going to be walking too far, because we could hear the fighting. You knew the American troops are not far behind us. So I walked about 2 days and crossed a little bridge. The little bridge was blown up, so our group was divided in 2 halves. I was on half of a village named Königsdorf, and there was little forest in the village, so they took us into the forest, and they asked for volunteers to take the sick people in to the farmers and put them into the barn, and told the volunteers to come back. One of the volunteers was a friend of mine, so on the way back, they found a dead horse in the snow. So they cut off some pieces from the horse, and my friend came back with a piece of horse meat, and he said, do something. So I made a fire, and I was barbecuing. And that was the best meal we had in a long time. This was, that was a friend, his name was Joe Buddha. He's the one who brought me the horse meat. And during the night, the guards disappeared. We didn't know until next morning. The German police came and they took us into the village and they disappeared. So it was in the morning between about 8, 9 o'clock. So we just walked around in the village, find out, see what's gonna happen next. So we were around until about between 12 and 1 o'clock. An American tank moved in and we were liberated. And behind the tank were the American troops. They came in and they tried to block off the village, not to let anybody out. But we were 9 of us, we were in the camp for 5 years already. We didn't want to get blocked in. So we broke through and started to walk in to see where the next town is. So I walked for it was about 1 or 2 kilometers, and there was a bakery. So I got into the bakery and everybody got a bread. You had a bread, you were okay. And we walked and come to a city named Bartels. And we see 3 American soldiers walking. They were trying to walk. They couldn't even walk. They were holding on to each other. They were so drunk. They were Czechoslovakian descent. So when they saw us coming, I guess the clothes we were wearing, you know, they asked, are you Polish? They said, yes, come on. So they took us into an underground bunker. You couldn't see the end of it, that bunker. Probably anything you can think of was in that bunker. So the first thing, we changed clothes. Everybody took a backpack and put some food in. And there was a big row of bicycles chained up. They broke the chains, and everybody got a bicycle. Now we have to find a place where to stay, because when the American troops came into that village, they brought all the people into that city. It used to be a German Air Force base and made a DP camp, a displaced person camp. But we didn't want to go to a camp, so we tried to get out the city. And we couldn't because it was after 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock was curfew. And so we hopped over about 3 or 4 fences and we came to a German inn, and it was taken over by the American troop. And in back of the inn was an empty house, so we took over the house. So I lived in the house for 10 days. Then they came out and ordered anybody who lives outside of the camp has to move into the camp. So we moved into the camp and were taken back to another DP camp in Munich. But you were free. You could live at the camp or you can go any place you want. So I lived for 3 days at the camp, and a few friends of mine and we decided to go back to the city of Landsberg, where the last camp was, to go back there. And Landsberg had one of the biggest DP camps in Germany. There were a lot of DP camps in Germany at the time. Landsberg was one of the biggest. So we went to the camp, registered, they gave me a room, and I stayed overnight, but I didn't want to live in the camp. So the next morning, I moved out and moved to a farm about 7 kilometers from town. I lived in a farmhouse. So I lived in the farmhouse about 6 weeks, and I decided to go back to Poland, to my hometown, to see if anybody of my family survived. Because when I got out of the Warsaw Ghetto, I left my parents, 2 sisters, and 1 brother in the Warsaw Ghetto. Until today, I still don't know what happened to them. So I went back to Poland, and went to the house, and I was told that there were survivors who were living on the second floor. The first floor were Polish people living. But they said nobody, no immediate family came back. The only one who came back was a cousin of mine. We were separated in Auschwitz. When Dr. Mengele told me to go to the left, when we were separated, we were together, him and two of his uncles, my father's brothers. So he was the one who survived. He was 2 years younger than I. That was him here. We have the same last name. His name was Mark Alexander. He survived, but he was in a different town. And at that time, it was very bad for survivors who came back to Poland because the Polish people were killing a lot of survivors. Because when they took the Jews out, they moved into the homes, and now survivors are coming back. They didn't want to give up the homes, so they killed a lot of them. In one town named Kielce, they killed 42 survivors in one town. So the Polish people living on my first floor asked me if I'm going to stay or move out. I told them, don't bother, I'm not going to stay. And I went and I got my cousin and we went back to Germany. So I lived in Germany for 4 more years. I couldn't go any place, he didn't have a passport. You had to wait until some country opens up. So after 4 years, Canada said they're going to take some people. So I went, registered, and then you have to wait until they call you. Took a long time, didn't hear anything from Canada. So in the meantime, a friend of mine lived in the next village. He came and he said, you can go now to Munich, you can register to go to America. So I went and registered. In a very short time, I get a notice to go to see the American doctor to check you out, and then the FBI to check you out. And I got a note to go to the port in Germany called Bremerhaven, where the boat was to come to America. So I got Bremen and crossed the ocean about 10 days and arrived in New York. Arrived in New York on May 30th, 1949. And everybody had to have a sponsor. Either he had some relatives here or an organization. I didn't have any relatives here, so I was sponsored by a Jewish organization named Joint. So my contract was Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So I went to Harrisburg, and I worked in Harrisburg for a man. He had a cleaning store and tuxedo rentals. I worked as a tailor. I worked for him, and that man, a father, couldn't be better than this man was to me. And I came in May, and the cousin of mine who survived, he had an uncle here in Santa Monica. So he was the sponsor. So he came in October. He came to Santa Monica and told the uncle that I'm in Pennsylvania, and we were the only 2 survivors from both of our families. So the uncle called me a few times. I should come here so we can be together. So in 1950, I came to California. And let me tell you, when I was in Birkenau, I speak to a lot of schools, a lot of students, high school students. And They asked me something if I ever thought of giving up. I saw in Birkenau people were running to the electric fence to get electrocuted. People were being beaten to death because they gave up. So they asked me if I ever thought of giving up. I said, no, I never did. I never lost faith. I never stopped believing in God. And I said, I may have a bad day today, but I hope tomorrow will be a better day. But never give up. That's what I tell them. So, and also, I was in 3 camps. I had to witness people being hung, people trying to escape, they got caught, and on Sunday, we had to gather around watching being hung. I saw 3 times of that. So, here I'll show you something. Here is something, this is my liberation from Dachau. And there is one from Auschwitz. And down here you can see there's my tattoo here. 142584. And here is one from Munich. And on this one it shows you that I was in the camps from 1939 to May 2nd, 1945. And here's a picture. This is the way we lived in the camps. There were shelves, you know, and there was one section up here was for 3 people. On the second row here, on the bottom, is right down here. You know, I'm sure you heard about Elie Wiesel. That's him right here. And in some of the camps, these were the uniforms we were wearing. So now in 2015, I was invited by the German government to come back to celebrate 70 years of liberation of Dachau. So I went back and we were celebrating for 5 days, days and evenings, and we couldn't ask for better treatment we got. And they paid for everything. And I spoke to some people, you recognize who this is here. It's Angela Merkel.
Hey, I'm sorry, it's who, please?
Angela Merkel.
Angela Merkel.
Yeah, I spoke to her in Davos.
She's a German prime minister.
So now, if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer you. Yes?
You said that always you believe in God and you have to trust. Did you see something? Did something talk to you in your mind? Something give you like a push to live more?
No, no, I don't have any books. No, we just said we believe in God. Because God got me through. Actually, I tell you, if it wasn't God looked after me, and He wanted me to survive, so I can talk to people and let them know what happened. Because I had two incidents where I wouldn't be here today. If I didn't get out of the Warsaw Ghetto, I would be where my parents went, my sister and brother. The second time, when I was in, Dr. Mengele told me to go to the left. And if I didn't run back to the other side, so you see, God was there, helped me to go, to run, told me to run back to the other side. I would have gone to the gas chamber. So that's why I say God was with me all the way. And that's why I'm here now talking to you. Thank you all for coming.
We still have time for some questions. Yes, you have your hands up.
I've heard many people speak about the Holocaust, and I've been to some of the camps, and I thank you because you're quite amazing to be able to speak as articulately as you did, and we really appreciate the fact that you are speaking to high school kids, especially, because nobody in this country realizes how lucky they are until they listen to somebody like you.
Well, I speak to a lot of high schools. I've spoken to a lot of high schools all over the country. And I was told that 70% of the kids I talked to at the schools never heard about the Holocaust. And so you see, especially you have to talk to them because there's a lot of anti-Semitism going on. And I got Holocaust deniers. So I tell them, don't listen to those Holocaust deniers. I call them, they're crazy. Because the evidence is still in existence today. I was back in the camps as now. And you see every day buses with people coming from all over the world to witness the gas chambers with the ovens. So that's why I call them, they're crazy. Don't listen to them. And they murdered 6 million Jews. They didn't kill them, murder them because they were criminals or did anything wrong. Just because they were Jews. So they murdered 6 million, 1.5 million children. So, yes.
There are some Holocaust survivors that have a difficult time talking about their experience. And I was wondering if you or if there's a group of them who are in contact with each other and they talk to each other, or if that is something that they just kind of keep to themselves or never want to express their experience.
There was a lot of them, never wanted to talk, didn't talk about it. But we have a group, a small group, survivors. And we belong to the Holocaust Museum Los Angeles. So we meet almost every Friday afternoon. We get together on Zoom here, and we talk about things. So we do, and most of them talk at schools too also. Just a few of us who's left.
Any other questions that, yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, it's a pleasure to listen to your story. My grandfather survived the Holocaust. He passed away in 2011, but he told his story. He has it written down in a book as well as an interview on video, and he doesn't really have many I guess, photos or relics from even just after they got out of the camps. I was wondering, how did you have your liberation papers?
How do I live?
The liberation papers?
Liberation paper. That's why I received when I was liberated. Like I say, here you can see it's signed by the American troop. That's done. And the same thing, you got seals. See, they all have, it's not just paper, they all have a seal from the organization that signed it.
So did all the prisoners receive one after when they were liberated?
I don't know if all of them have it, but most of the people do have it.
Any questions? Raise your hand if you have a question. Please go ahead, Dave.
So, I understand now you see that you have a mission to share what you went through with these people who don't know, like the high school students. And that gives you a purpose. But when you were in the camp, you kept your faith with God even when it was a bad day. But did you know that was your purpose, or did you just have your own, a different thing that kept you going? Was it your faith in God mostly? Or did you just know that you needed to survive and that you needed to be a witness? Was that something you knew even then?
Yes, what you say. Actually, let me see I couldn't get it too good what he said.
Give me a synopsis in one sentence of your question.
Did you know when you were in camp that you were going to have a purpose to be a witness when you came out in the world?
Did you take on this mission later on after you came out of camps, or you already had made up your mind in the camp about?
Oh, actually, when I was in the camps, my mission was to survive. And when I knew I survived, it wasn't right away, but it took a little time before I started to talk about it. Because I don't think at the time there weren't people ready to listen.
In the back, ma'am, please.
Thank you so much. I have run your agency in Virginia for 35 years, and honestly, you're so inspirational. I really appreciate what you're doing, and it helps me every day for 35 years in my work. What about your next generation? Are they going to take on your mission?
Well, I hope so. That's why now actually we have also now, there's a group we call Second Generation. So I hope they can carry on. Because not too many of us left.
Yeah, please rise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I heard you about 10 years ago, and I remember that you were talking about after liberation that they wanted to send you back to Poland. And then you decided that they wanted to send you back to Germany. And then you decided that you were Polish, and then they said you would send you back to Poland. And finally you made it to America, obviously. But can you tell us a little bit about that section of your life at that time?
Well, still, I had an incident when I went back to Poland at the time I told you. On the way back, to go back to Germany, I came to the border of Poland and Czechoslovakia. So they said to go through Czechoslovakia, you have to get a visa. There was a Czech consulate in Krakow in Poland. So I went and I got a visa. And actually I was going back, my cousin was with me, and another couple, a husband and wife, because I came with ICE, I had those papers, they said they want to go with me, going back. So we went and got a visa in Krakow, and then we got on the train in Czechoslovakia, and at that time, Czechoslovakia was occupied by the Russians. So come through Czechoslovakia, come to the German border, we are on the train, and I showed the visa for the Russian officer. He said, visa is okay, but you have to go back to Prague and get a stamp. That was about 6 weeks after the war. There was no government in Prague to get a stamp. Where do you get a stamp? So we went back to Prague, and I said, let's try to go through Austria. So we went on the train and came to the Austrian border. They took everybody off the train and took away all the papers you had, and they put us up, the Russians put us up about 3 days. Then they had to go through, they organized a group from representatives from all the European countries. And you had to go through to them. In whatever country you were born, they will send you back to the country of birth. So the visa I had was the cousin of mine was my brother, and the couple, she was my sister, and her husband was my brother. So I had all 4 pictures on that visa. So when we went through, so the woman went in, the first one for an interview. I guess she didn't know. Asked her where she's from. So I guess she said she's from Poland. So he put her on the list to go back to Poland. Then I went in and asked me, where are you born? I said, in Germany. What language do you speak? I speak German. I picked up some different words in the camps from different countries. Where in Germany? I said, Cologne, Germany. But your sister was here, and she arrived, she signed the paper to go back to Poland. I said to her, she doesn't understand what you were saying. And then I had one of the papers I had where I had a stamp when I was going back from the Polish Red Cross. So I told him, I said, take a look. See, there's a stamp from the Polish Red Cross that we're going home. So he showed it to the Polish representative and said, yeah, that's right. So he took the papers, he said, the woman signed, tore it up, threw it away, and put us on the list to go back to Germany. We were 78 people, 22 of us were going to Germany. The rest of the people, I don't know where they went. So we went through. So the next morning they took us to the Austrian border by the Russian guard, took us to the border and handed us over to the Austrian border guard so we can go to get to Vienna. So I went to Vienna, and Vienna was divided in 4 parts at the time. There was the American, British, French, and Russian. But to get back to Germany, you had to be at the American side. So American side was outside of Vienna. So I went on the train to Salzburg and crossed the river. We were on the American side. You rented a truck, you went back to Germany. So I don't know if that's what you meant, that at times will send you back with the country you were born in.
Yeah, if I may add, what struck me the most that you went back to Poland, and then the Polish people would not let you stay there. The local farmers, the local people in Poland, and you had to say that you are German in order to survive back into the American side.
No, that's not true, but if I wanted to stay, I could stay. If I wanted to stay in Poland, I could stay. But I didn't want to stay. because I had nothing for to stay for. My family was all gone, plus my immediate family. I had aunts, uncles, cousins, hundreds of them who perished. So I had no reason to stay there. Even today, I went back a couple of times. The town I grew up, there's not one Jew there.
So, Mr. Alexander, I have a question for you. So obviously, here, we're talking about the Holocaust. There is the bigger lesson to be learned, in general, hatred, um, that could destroy countries, nations, the world. And that's overall a lesson to be learned, which I believe is the reason why we have the Museum of Tolerance. It's all about tolerating others and living peacefully. But obviously here, we're talking about the Jewish people being targeted and destroyed by the millions. So as someone that has gone through all that experience now in this century, in our generation, what would you say specifically to that? What should be the mindset, the outlook of a Jewish person? How, I mean, their identity, their way of life, should we be hiding? Should we be not public about it? Should we be fighting? What should be our outlook as Jewish people?
We should not fight, not hide. We shouldn't hide. We just have to fight and educate the people. Just educate them. Our mission is to educate the young people. They're the future. So you have to educate them and let them know that the Jewish people are always, no matter what, they always bounce back. So that's the only thing I can say is just through education. That's the most important thing is through education. That's
Of course. Yes.
Thank you very much. It's an honor. Have you thought of writing a book about what your experiences were and all that?
have I.
Have you thought of writing a book?
Telling your
right.
story.
Yeah.
Well, everybody tells me that. But I have a little book actually. I had a group of students here in Los Angeles.
If you want to prepay for copies, not a problem. We'll sign a contract right now.
Yeah, there's a little book here. There's a school in Los Angeles here where called the oldest school. It's a school of design, a design school.
Right across the street here.
Yeah.
That's right. Lincoln Boulevard.
Well, they wrote a book for me.
Wow.
Nice.
How can we get copies of that book?
Yeah, on one side of the book, it says, "Do you believe in luck, Joe?" Question mark. On the back cover, it says, "No, I believe in God."
Yeah, so that's a nice book with all some pictures in here. So that's why they wrote this book.
Is there a way to get copies of that, sir?
I think you can probably get through the school. I have some copies, but I didn't give them out, distributed to some friends and relatives. But I'm sure, I think if you get in touch with the school, they can probably they have some copies, I think.
So, before moving on to some other questions, I want to thank someone and give an opportunity for a question, and that is the idea of Mr. Alexander coming here and pursuing it was all my wife Sonia, so who's sitting in the back right there. What was that? Yes, okay, they're inseparable in everything they do. I should have known that she's behind it too. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for coming.
That's not my wife, that's just the member of the community.
Wanted to know about your family.
My family, actually, I was married, and I have a daughter and a son. So, because I've lost my whole family, I'm the only survivor.
Any grandchildren? One grandchild, okay. God willing, you should have lots and lots of namas from the child. I'm sorry, there were some other questions. If you could raise your hand again, so I could know who had a question. Yeah, behind the column, please. And then two rows back.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I truly enjoyed listening to your story. It's so fascinating. I just want to know, with all the evidence that's out there proving that the Holocaust did in fact exist, why do you think there's so much denial of the Holocaust?
Because there's always somebody, he thinks, like, he had a, right now, not too long ago, what the fuck is his name now? The black rapper, music rapper. So he came out now within a year, I'm sure you saw the banner he had over the freeway. So after that happened, I had a call from Channel 11 here, Fox News. And they came and they interviewed me and made some pictures. And they were shown it on Channel 11 one day, 3 times. At the 5 o'clock news, the 6 o'clock special, then the 10 o'clock news. So that against what he was saying. So to show the people that there's a different way, different things. So that's why you say, obviously, Holocaust deniers, just the kids I tell them, don't believe what they say. Don't believe what they tell you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Right next to the gentleman with the mask. Ma'am, you had a question? Yeah, you had a question? Perfect. Okay. Yes, that'd be so.
Another question. I'd like to thank you. Actually, thank somebody. Before you listen to your wife, Abraham had to listen to his wife.
I appreciate that. Rabbi Sol wants to thank me for listening to my wife. And historically, that's happened. Abraham listened to his wife Sarah when we read in the Bible a few weeks ago. So miracles do happen. What can I tell you? I'm still trying hard to make it a habit.
That's right.
I'd like to thank you for coming and sharing your experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rabbi Sol. May you have a long life, healthy life. Debbie, in the back, please. Loud.
Would you give us the honor of giving a blessing to us here that are here tonight?
Sure.
I actually forewarned Mr. Alexander when he arrived. I said, rest assured that the request will be coming. And I think collectively, here we are, Baruch Hashem, a big crowd, which by the way is beautiful. You know, ever since COVID, I would say this is one of the bigger lectures that we have here, participants. So thank God that we are back to normal life. the needs, as we have in the prayers of the high holiday of Yom Kippur, that when it says, "V'merubim tzarchei amcha," that the needs of your nation, of your people, are many. In other words, just as there is billions of people, there is billions of needs unique to each one. So I think, at least in a holistically, in a general category, I could say that some people here, Mr. Alexander, are going to need health. Some people here would like to find their basher to get married. Some people would like to be able to have children. Some need to marry off the children. And some need their sustenance to be able to have enough to live properly and have a proper home and so on and so forth. So I think your blessing is going to need to be a broad one that covers everything.
Yeah, okay, now. Well, Yivarech Adonai v'yishmerechu,
Amen.
v'yusam Adonai v'shem shalom.
Amen.
Shehechayonu v'kiyimonu v'hegiyonu lazman hazeh.
Amen. And just to translate that, that was brilliant, because when you talk about a blessing that has it all, this was the blessing quoted from the Torah when God tells Moses to have the children of Aaron, who are going to be the Kohanim, the Kohens, the priests, they should use this language to bless everybody, which has the words Yevarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, that Hashem, God Almighty, should be the one to bless you and watch over you physically. And Yar Hashem panav v'lecha b'chuneka, Yisa Hashem panav v'lecha b'yasem l'cha sholem, that may Hashem's, God's countenance always be upon you, favorably and kindly, and have compassion and give you the flow of blessings that you need in all matters of life, spiritual and physical. Which in this general blessing, which so brilliantly was chosen by Mr. Alexander, is everything and anything that we all need in our life. And he concluded with the words, Shechianu, Mikimanu, Vigiyanu, Lizban Hazeh, which is a blessing we recite anytime we have a special occasion. As a matter of fact, when Hanukkah is going to come around, one of the blessings that we say on the candles is the blessing of Shechianu. We thank God for keeping us alive and bringing us, keeping us alive and bringing us to the moment that we are in. Shechianu, Vikimanu, Vigiyanu, Lizman Hazeh, to this moment. And that's very significant because it teaches us that every day we have to thank God and count our blessings. These days, we all suffer, thank you COVID-19, from so many symptoms of being lonely and isolated and being down and downtrodden and so on and so forth. And we have to stop. We have to kind of snap out of it and do the reverse. Every day we got to get up and say, Modeh ani lefanecha, thank you God for returning this all to me. So therefore, that is a blessing. That is a hint of how to go. The secret of life, how to survive through 12 camps, is every day to say, Shechianu v'kiyimanu v'yiganu. Thank you, God, for keeping me alive and bringing me to this moment.
Yes.
And with that, I want to encourage everyone to reach deeper into yourself, into your soul, and try to figure out, why did God put you down in this world? Why did He give you the soul? This is not a futile exercise that God did because He was bored. He could have gone to Club Med instead of creating us and putting this elaborate setup together. But He did because He had a purpose for every single one of us. And it gave us the soul, which is the godly power, so that we could fulfill that purpose. So we gotta every day wake up and search for that purpose and fulfill that purpose. And it needs searching because it's not obvious. Because if it was obvious, it wouldn't be a freedom of choice. Then we would be like angels. God didn't need angels. He wanted human beings that have freedom of choice. And through fulfilling your purpose, you will find the ultimate happiness that you could experience in life. Rabbi Pinchas, you have a question?
No, I want to say on behalf of everyone, of course, we all bless you. Thank you very much, and sei gesund and stark.
Amen.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
It's a very, very special occasion that you're here, and I was wondering if it would be okay that you take a picture with children of this congregation who are here, because I think this is a very, it's an honor that they get to listen to you, and I think it would be wonderful to share the picture.
You okay with the picture?
Sure.
Sure, okay. And I also want to note the number on the arm. I'm going to use it for blind lottery tickets. That's what I'm going to do.
And also, I'd like to remind everybody, you should go to visit the Holocaust Museum, which is, no, not the one on Pico. Pico is more political.
Yad Vashem?
No, it's the museum's called Holocaust Museum Los Angeles, which is in Pan Pacific Park, back of the Grove.
In Pan Pacific Park, between 3rd and Beverly.
Yeah.
That's where it's located.
It's the first museum built in the United States. And it was built by Holocaust survivor, and it's run by Holocaust survivors.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's make a good resolution. If you're not already receiving emails from Chabad Jewish Center here, please go on our website, sign up to be on the weekly newsletter so that you can know about all the classes, all the lectures. And don't forget, next week Hanukkah is coming up. If you need the menorah, we could take care of that for you. And Sunday night we'll have a Hanukkah party here, and Tuesday night at the Marina Del Rey boardwalk. So please join us for the festivities.
And I want to give a blessing of Arichus Yom B'Shanim Tevis of long life and healthy life to Joe. I'm not sure how many of you do know, but I did put it in the email that Baruch Hashem, Leah and Hara, Joe has already celebrated his 100th birthday, and 120 plus these days. There's inflation, so we give you some extra years. And may you see the coming of Mashiach, so that all our loved ones could come back, and that will be a true simcha, a true happiness and joy of the nth degree. And I know you're here tonight with.
What's your name, Laura? Okay, and
She's my girlfriend.
May you continue to be a source of inspiration to Klal Israel and to every single person around the globe. You are a true inspiration. Thank you, Joe, for coming. And I want to give Joe a token of appreciation. And that is a magnificent book that just came out. Thank you. The Book of Jewish Knowledge. Joe suffered through the Holocaust, and so did millions of Jewish people because of being Jewish. And it's only befitting that these days, everybody makes a good resolution to find out what does it mean to be Jewish. And of course, not that any of this is new to Joe, but it's a magnificent book, beautiful of everything in the history of the Jewish people, all the mitzvot, all the commandments, so beautifully illustrated and explained. So I want to give this as a token of appreciation. Thank you so much. Thank you. And
thank you, Rabbi. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This is a book. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's a wonderful, one of the most beautiful books. And it's all this here metaphysical, like thank you. Thank you everybody.
And now those that want to take a picture of the children you requested, so please come. Okay, you know what, let's create some order here. So children, why don't you come forward? And Joe, if you don't mind, we'll step back a little bit in front of the ark. Joe, let's step back over there so that we have space.
Yes, Sean is home watching.
Where would you like us to start the line? This side or this
Yeah, I'll let you know what you're doing.
There's my eldest. We'll start with the second first. Yeah, so. Find a lady with the big tree of rock. We'll start with that
Yeah, so one of the. Yeah, it's like,
Rabbi,
I'm always on front. Come right back. She'll be right back.
Okay, you want the picture? So you have to do it. Okay, great comment. Let's take a picture.
You were just talking about They also do injections.
I'm talking to somebody tomorrow.
My friend had it done.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it takes a while to heal.
Yeah, it's like 6 months.
Yeah. He's not 100% yet.
I'm talking to her tomorrow.
My friend had he got an injection. Yeah.
I'm a dancer, so
I do bothers me. But I remember the doctor said do a bicycle, and I did it, and my knee didn't feel bad.
yes, I walk too.
A bicycle specifically, I think the way
Yeah.
it strengthens around the whole.
It
doesn't put
walking
stress.
does it too.
You want to say goodbye
Oh, really?
very
Just walking?
quickly, or you did
We
you
did say goodbye, so I said goodbye to everybody.
Then maybe, I hope you don't mind, I'll carry the car for you. Where did you go? So, where is she? Okay, by the side door?
Thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you so much for hosting. Wonderful event.
Okay, my wife is here. We gotta take a picture with Sonia. If you don't mind. Oh, I'm telling you, Sonia doesn't take pictures with everybody. So that's really a special one. Yeah, okay. So come. We go to the side of the skirt. Yes. One of my daughters. This is my shmuli. Like this. Yeah, shmuli is number 11 in our children. Yeah. Of course, he doesn't know shmuli movement. He is one of, I think, 16. That's right. Good memory. You're amazing. Yeah, of course. Oh, wow. Beautiful. Yeah, so yeah, me and Dov are very close friends. And his wife, Fiula, who you're going to meet, worked for me for many years. In school, when I was running the Chabad coach, she was the secretary teacher and I hired her. So she's an amazing woman. Oh, wow. So how did that happen? Over the years? There's Chabad is a volunteer or something there, right? Yeah, yeah. Wow, amazing, amazing. Wow. Listen, it's not enough money. You deserve much more. Shmuel is full of life. It's full of energy. He's a character. He is a character. So far, my friend. I know Rabbi Yitzchak. His name is Yitzchak. You know, you asked me about the age and, you know, if I announced it or not. So what happened was, I'll tell you the honest truth. He They don't really, I don't really put it out. And some of the interactions that we had, from what I read on the thing, always excited. No, but I saw these questions carefully.
No explanation.
How old were you?
You must have your Steve. Well, thank you so much.
I didn't know you have to that. I was there very years, 15, every year.
What? Tell her I'm coming over 3 minutes, okay? What?
I'm gonna act like a dinosaur. My balloon. Oh. I'm like balloon. Oh.
Jakob Angel. I'm expecting it. Never I expect. I can't get it. I can't reach it. Come here, sweetheart. Austria, and I visited the concentration camp, so I've stood here, I've seen everything very up close. Yeah.
Sorry, can we take one more picture?
Sure. Don't put your hands around her. Her husband might get jealous. I tried. If I die, did I come wrong? I do want to have.
Oh no, but it gets to bed. Your kids are here, so.
What's the supper?
I don't know.
I know.
What?
Eating, I'm gonna be home. I need supper right away.
You're so far.
Right away, Beanie, not a minute later. I think I've been good.
You had a whole house. Amazing.
Thank you for making it happen.
I saw you guys even on everything. I said, even you.
I was actually thinking a nice drink.
It's amazing.
Did you take a picture with you?